It was 30 years ago that the Texas Parks and Wildlife television series, originally known as Made in Texas, got its start. Curtis Craven is one of more than 30 producers, photographers, writers, and editors who have contributed to the show since its first broadcast in 1985.
I'm Curtis Craven, and I was a producer with the Texas Parks and Wildlife television series from 1990 to 1996. My favorite story was Forgotten Borderland, and it was a story that really was pure adventure. It took us back and forth across the Mexican-Texas border, and we got into areas that to this day are pretty much unknown.
El Paso is one of the oldest towns in Texas. For the Spaniards, it was just another river crossing, a rest stop on the way to the northern frontier called New Mexico. The Pueblo Indian Revolt of 1680 pushed the unwanted Spaniards back to El Paso, where they stayed and built these missions. Like an urban oasis in the Chihuahuan Desert, people flocked to El Paso and its Mexican sister, Ciudad Juarez. To many, the Rio Grande is still just another river crossing, and the political boundary formed by this shallow stream is nothing more than a watery blur. Today, combined with Ciudad Juarez, this desert colossus has a population nearing 3 million inhabitants. As these two modern cities continue to grow, they remain isolated in many ways. They sit on the edge of a world that has remained unchanged for centuries, a forgotten borderland on the Texas frontier. Just around 50 miles downriver from El Paso, the main highways swerve away from the Rio Grande, leaving behind only a dusty dirt road that follows along the river. 18 miles or so later, this border road comes to a dead end. You've arrived at Indian Hot Springs. Now a private ranch resort, it has an eclectic history that includes Apaches, Buffalo Soldiers, H.L. Hunt, and Jack Nicholson. The area is rich with numerous flowing springs.
The great thing about it from our standpoint really is the remoteness of the country. It looks harsh, and it is harsh. And yet it's delicate too. The desert is always that way. There are critters and plants that you're not accustomed to because you're from a more lush part of the state. But there are a lot out here, and it's got its own beauty. It's a different kind of beauty. The air basically is pretty clean here. You can see the stars from one horizon to the next, and there are not many places left in America where that takes place. It's got its own beauty and its own calling.
Since the only road on the U.S. side ends at Indian Hot Springs, the best way to continue exploring the border is by crossing the Rio Grande into Mexico. Directly across from Indian Hot Springs is the small village of Ojos Calientes, also meaning hot springs. There's only a handful of people living here, and the closest store is over 3 hours away. Jesus Marmolejo, a longtime resident, crosses the river daily to work at the other Indian Hot Springs.
Yo nací en Bosque Bonito. Y de la edad de 6 años me vine aquí y aquí he estado toda la vida. Pues sí, está impuesta la gente al rancho. No hay luz eléctrica, puros aparatos de petróleo. Y no hay tiendas, no hay nada, nada. Tiene que ir hasta por venir al mandado. Y si quiere tomar, tiene que ir al pueblo también, porque aquí no hay que tomar nada, pura agua.
Leaving Ojos Calientes, you begin a drive that takes you into a desolate section of the desert. No houses, no trees, just a rocky road cutting through a wide expanse of no man's land. There aren't many signs of life here. The roads are rough and dusty, with few landmarks to lead the way. Every 10 miles or so along the road appear tiny settlements of adobe buildings. Always friendly, the inhabitants are willing to provide the traveler with general directions, advice on where to find gas or water, or information about river crossings. Nearly 50 miles downriver from Indian Hot Springs is a community called Amelio Kuranza. Not really a town, it's a collection of families, a communal ranch established after the 1910 Mexican Revolution for peasant land reform. Among the families living here are the Salcedos. Evaristo Salcedo estimates that he has around 240 goats in his herd.
Oh, pues nosotros aquí nos dedicamos a la crianza de animalitos. Son los que nos están dando la vida a nosotros. Y así, pues, esperanzados a que llueva para sembrar pedacitos, poco maíz, poca pastura, bueno, en fin, lo que se pueda. Ese es el modo de vivir de nosotros aquí.
Hours away from a doctor or clinic, the family can only hope that no medical emergencies arise. Last year, the nearby schoolhouse was closed. This was due to a government reassignment of the teacher who had been there for over 9 years.
Mucha gente se entere que aquí estamos, pues como quien dice, abandonados, ¿verdad? Entonces, a lo mejor por esto, pues nos puede caer más ayuda.
Just a few hundred feet from the Salcedo's house is a small footbridge that crosses the Rio Grande. There's no customs or immigration, and the residents use this bridge daily to get their mail that is delivered on the U.S. side. "15 miles down the road is another well-used ford. Known as Paso 18, it is here that the traveler, with any luck, can cross back into the U.S. Almost immediately upon crossing the river, there is evidence that you have left one world and entered another. This road continues around 40 miles along the Rio Grande to the small town of Candelaria. In Candelaria, the pavement begins again, taking you to destinations where running water, electricity, and supermarkets are taken for granted. In some places, the border separating Texas and Mexico has all but disappeared. Where exactly does Texas end and Mexico begin? To many of us, as we look at a map, the answer appears quite simple. But as you get closer to the border itself, the definition becomes blurry and confusing. Standing on the banks of the Rio Grande and looking towards the other shore, we can sometimes see into our own past, the mirror image of a place that has remained part of the forgotten borderland.